Hello, my name is Luis. I'm a second-year student in analog and radio frequency electronics at ENSER Matmeka. I am also the project manager of the NanoStar Challenge. This challenge being for European students, our team represents Bordeaux INP in France. We have been invited to participate to the challenge as part of our studies. All the members are coming from the electronic branch, but from different options, such as digital electronics or analog and radio frequency electronics. The goal of the challenge is to create a complete nanosatellite pre-design using the given specifications. Before presenting the whole CubeSat, let me introduce you to the project. The mission of the nanosat is to take pictures of the moon. To do so, it is firstly placed onto a JETO trajectory, and it is our work to find an appropriate orbit to reach the moon. The orbit and the size were the first parameters that we decided to set, given they have an impact on all the other members of the group. For this reason, we chose to work with a free return trajectory, which will guarantee the return of the CubeSat once he has passed the moon. In order to achieve all the points from the specifications, the work was divided between the different members as it is shown on your screen. Given the great variety of topics to cover, it was necessary to have a good organization and communication within the group. For this reason, we did use a planning that we defined from the beginning of the project. When all the tasks were defined, it was necessary for all the members to be able to track the project advancements. That is the reason why we created a Trello. We also had the chance to have the support of our professors to assist us with new complex notions. In addition to the organization, I would like to introduce you briefly to the tools that we used. In order to modelize the nanosatellites, we used IDM CIC. This software is put at our disposal by the CNES. However, it is quite hard to master it given it is extremely complete. For this reason, we had a 2 days formation at the beginning of the project. The formation also covered the Celestia plugin and the IDMU software. Despite the fact that these software are extremely complete, it is unfortunate to see that they do not integrate the modelization of the moon. For this reason, all of the orbit calculations were achieved using GMAT, a free NASA software. Eventually, this project was a very good introduction to space engineering and its constraints. Each member will now present his work on the project.
For the orbit, we will use a free return trajectory. It's composed in 3 steps. First, we will keep the thruster constantly on for 600 days to reach the Lagrange L1 point, which corresponds to the red curve. Once here, we turn off the engine and wait until we get close enough to the moon to be drawn to it, which is the green curve. As we pass in front of it, we will use gravitational braking to return close to the Earth, in order to simplify data transfer. The simulated orbit has a duration of 1 year and 9 months and was simulated by GMAT.
Hello, I am Othman. As it was said before, the orbit chosen is a free return trajectory. In the aim of determining the operation modes, we have thought of dividing the mission into several phases. The preliminary phase is during launching when the nanosatellite is still in the launch container. The second phase will occur after the separation from the launcher. The spacecraft starts operation independently. The third phase is a very power-consuming because of being in the acceleration mode for 600 days. The fourth phase is the GTO orbit standby phase. The fifth phase is the experiment phase and will occur during the flyby on the lunar trajectory. To quantify the functioning of the nanosatellite, we have defined 6 operation modes. The first mode is the sleep mode when the spacecraft is similar to a rock. The stabilization mode is the principal mode for adjusting orientation and recharging batteries. The acquisition mode is the responsible of establishing communication with the ground station, and the acceleration mode is where the propulsion motors are switched on, and the experiment mode is where the payload is being conducted. The final one is the most important, the safe mode. The trigger event is a non-board error or a system failure.
Hi, I am Nurdin. The embedded system performs 2 major functions in the nanosat. First of all, thanks to a sensor system, he is the main responsible of the Odysseus system management. So here, we talk about the whole CubeSat status control. Second, it ensures the spacecraft's housekeeping and mission data processing by onboard computer, OBC. So the embedded system is the brain of the whole CubeSat. The primary component of the OBC is the microcontroller. Because of the size restriction of the typical CubeSat and the specification of the space environment, the embedded system needs to be powerful, small, lightweight and easy to integrate with all of the other subsystems. On the other hand, it must be resistive against space radiation. So, the ideal embedded system is one which has been proven on other spacecraft. That's why, as an embedded system designer team, we choose the Nanomind A3200 as a calculator of our nanosat. Nanomind A3200 is designed as a system for space application, so it gives us an unpaired connection flexibility with the various and multiple connectivity. Then it has 32 megabyte of SDRAM and 128 megabyte NOR flash memory. Also, it includes 3-axis magnetometer HMC 5843 and 3-axis gyroscope MPU 3300 and core driver that can be used to employ attitude control. So, with the highlighted further, we are sure that a 3200 is the most reasonable for our project. We have chosen a bipolar design for the embedded control system. Instead of using a single computer, we will use 2 computers, not only to avoid the risk of overloading on a single one and to ensure independence between ADCS system management and mission supervision, but also to ensure the real-time data processing specification and not disturbing the sequence of operating mode scenarios. The first pole is the OBC calculator, who is the mission computer, which stores mission-specific commands. The OBSS also collects telemetry from no ADCS subsystems in order to generate the housekeeping signals. Second, we have the ADCS calculator, who is responsible for filtering the sensor data input. So, it manages the ADCS components and recover in a synchronized way the report delivered by each goal to make a appropriate decision. Finally, we will establish a data sharing connection between our 2 calculators to ensure the smooth running of the operating procedures. Finally, we will establish a data sharing connection between our 2 calculators to ensure the smooth running of the operating procedures.
In order to accomplish our mission, our satellite must be able at any moment to identify its position, its orientation, and be able to control it. Thus, the attitude determination and control subsystem is a crucial part of our satellite. In fact, it's this subsystem which will ensure that our solar panels are facing toward the sun, that our camera is pointing toward the moon, and obviously that we're close to the moon and ready to start taking pictures. In order to design a robust solution, we focused our analysis on components that are already confirmed by the CNES. Thus, we selected 4 sensors: a magnetometer, an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a sun sensor. 2 other actuators are also needed, which are a magnetorquer and a reaction wheel. Those components will work together to provide the onboard computer with all the information needed in order to determine and control the attitude and the orientation of our satellite.
I am Oumima Belkadra and here is Luis Grovin. Our role is to ensure the reliability of telecommunications in all circumstances and to ensure that each packet of information received corresponds to the one transmitted with a constant and minimal error rate, despite the very large distance between the Earth and the satellite.
To ensure the quality of telecommunications, we have calculated several leak budgets. The challenge of this calculation is to carefully choose the input parameters describing the telecommunication system to obtain the desired signal-to-noise ratio, which will ensure communication quality.
We have thus defined the ground station that will be used for both types of communication. The new Norcia station, located in Australia, is part of the ESA network. Its 15-meter parabolic antenna will be used for regular communications with the satellite, and the larger 35-meter antenna will be used to receive the image of the moon taken by the camera, which is the main objective of the Nanostar project. On the satellite, a system of deployable dipole antennas on one side of a satellite unit will be used for regular UHF band communications, while 2 patch antennas placed in a network on 2 adjacent sides of 2 units will be used for S-band transmission of the image.
We have chosen dipole antennas because of their isotropic nature, so they will be able to transmit and receive whatever the attitude of the satellite, which is a great advantage. On the other hand, their gain is limited, so they do not allow sending large packets of information. That's why we chose patch antenna to transmit the image. Networking them improves the overall gain and therefore the transmission quality, without increasing consumption. On the other hand, these antennas are very directive and will require a pointing of the satellite towards the new Norcia station.
The distance between the satellite and the Earth has a strong influence on the quality of communication. The further the satellite moves away, the more the ratio signal-to-noise decreases. To compensate for these losses, we could have increased the transmission power, but this would require more and more energy, with limited quantity in the satellite. We therefore use another dominant factor in the link budget, which is the data rate. By reducing it, we greatly increase the quality of the link and thus compensate for losses due to distance.
We therefore define the evolution of the data rate throughout the mission, according to the trajectory planned for the satellite. The further away the satellite is, the more the data rate will decrease. When the satellite then moves closer to Earth and back into orbit, the data rate will increase, allowing faster communication. It is at this time that the image of the Moon taken by the camera will be transmitted. This will maximize the quality of the transmission, which is crucial for the mission.
My name is Pierre Ferrer. I am a second-year student at INSERM Matmeca in electronics and radio frequency, and I am working with Olivier Thomé on the digital communications of the Nanostar project. Digital communication are an essential part of the satellite, the space environment being particularly hostile to electronics. In addition to having great distances, any wireless communication is seriously impacted. So in order to protect the data that needs to be transmitted between the Earth and our satellite, a lot of protection and verification have to be put in the transmitter's message itself to ensure its reliability. That's the role of digital communication. Considering the difficulty of taking pictures of the Moon, we cannot allow any errors during the transmission of those pictures. This implies the implementation of many verification systems and therefore a burden on the work necessary to transmit our data. Since resources are limited in the satellite, it is necessary to find a compromise between sending speed and data security. In order to fulfill this task, we mainly work on the link budget provided by the antenna section. This link budget gives us many information on the quality of the signal that we can have with a certain type of protections. We then have to determine whether or not the connection is satisfying and then provide the probability of this connection making any error during the transmission. Digital communication are all about compromise. We are constantly choosing between performance and cost. We communicate with every other part of the satellite in order to squeeze out as much in performance as possible. And I think that's what makes this part so interesting.
Hi, I am Amin. So in addition to participating in the overall design of the nanosatellite, the design of its electrical architecture and the sizing of its power system will also be addressed, taking into account the parameters of the orbit as well as the distribution of energy to best meet the requirements of the mission and resist to the hostile constraints of space. A simplified thermal analysis taking into account the dissipation and the heating points will also be carried out. In fact, the primary role of the electrical power system is to supply other systems of the CubeSat with appropriate electrical power. So the first step before beginning the design of the EPS is to know exactly what our goals and our constraints are. This power is collected from the solar panels. Solar cells produce power when they are exposed to direct solar radiation, which will be directly used by onboard equipment and stored in batteries. And so when our satellite is on the other side of the Earth, that is no longer in direct contact with the sun, that's when the batteries take over so that our satellite can keep working.